7:14 on this August 25th. We're going to have a beautiful sunrise here. Well, the sun's already up. I mean, we can see that headlights, but, I've got a grove of trees out front. Hey, Kelley,
Hey,
Representative Kelley Linck. Let's see, you're District 99, ain't you?
I am District 99 out
You're
of
next
100.
to last.
I've been there before, believe me.
So how you been?
I'm having a good time. I've been doing really good, Dale, and things are moving along, both personally and professionally. And of course, we've got a lot going on in the legislature right now because the people have empowered us during the elections in November with actually having some votes here during the interim. We can now control rules. We can't make up rules. But once agencies write rules, we now can either approve them or not approve, whereas before we just kind of just sit there and grunt or not grunt. And so, yeah, we've got things going on.
Okay, explain that to me how, because I've been seeing, I get the press releases from Governor Hutchinson, well, his office, I should say, and there's several things going on, and you're not in session, but yet y'all can still approve stuff?
That's right. How's
it work?
Constitutionally, back in November, we, the voters, said, our legislature representing us, the people, should have control over the agency's rules, even though we're not in session. And always before, we did not have control. We could say, yes, we approve or we agree with your rule, or we don't agree, but we didn't actually have say. There's one agency last year, as a good example, is the alcohol board put in 22 rules without even asking us, and because they didn't have to. They're supposed to ask us, but they really didn't. They didn't really have to. Because of the constitutional change now, every agency to implement a rule, an example I was just reading where the state parks are coming up with their new rates, and those rates will be coming before us, the legislature, I believe, in October, for us to say, yes, we agree, we like these rates, we agree with you, or no, we don't. And so now the legislature does still have some power during the interim, whereas before we did not. We had to call a session for everything. That doesn't mean we can write a law. We can't even write a rule, but we at least can approve or not approve of the rules proposed by agencies.
Interesting. Well, when we look back, and I've heard the news people on TV say, well, the state of Arkansas legislature voted themselves to raise. No, they didn't. You rerouted some money, and then the voters approved it.
Well, didn't even have to reroute money, Dale, because our pay comes out of the House budget.
I mean, like the office appropriation.
Right.
I think y'all were like 16,000, and you got, I forget what it was now. I mean, you could make a living off of it.
No,
but now you're at a decent scale, and so I think that.
And
I try not to get myself with the noose around my neck, but I think that was needed because y'all are making a decent.
It's also now
wage.
very forward as to exactly what we make. Before, Dale, it's interesting because we've been accused of being sneaky, of sneaking ourselves a raise. And in reality, we didn't even ask for this raise. The voters put in place. And again, a lot of times we do things constitutionally we don't know we're doing because we don't read everything as we vote. But we put in place a board, a commission, if you will, that looked at all the pay rates, including the governor, the treasurer, all the constitutional offices, the House, the Senate, and looked at the pay rates and compared to other 50 states, looked at our jobs, what we do, and then and then suggested or changed our pay. Now, before, Dale, we were making, yes, the $15,800, but we had an office stipend. So we, like I was given money to have an office and a telephone and all these things, which I should have. I should have in order to do this job. That amount of money equaled around $12,000 a year. So that really, my pay would then be $27,000 instead of $15,800. So it'd be $27,800. What they did is they did away with that stipend. They said, that's disingenuous. People don't know that. Voters don't know that I'm getting that stipend. I didn't know when I went into office I got that stipend. I had no idea. Really? Really? Okay, yeah. Good. This is good. And so that was done away with. So now we just get a flat pay.
Yeah.
And if I want to have an extra phone for my legislative duties, I can, or whatever.
Sure.
So everybody knows exactly what I'm making now, whereas before I didn't even know what I was making. or didn't know what I was going to make. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. And again, it's out front. It appeared that we got a huge raise. In reality, my net, because it's all now taxed, whereas before a stipend was not taxed. Because it's all now taxed, my net raise comes to about $3,400 a year.
Yeah.
Over what I was truly making before.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And that ballot initiative was put on the ballot it was on last November's ballot.
That's right.
Which means that was still under Governor Beebe's watch.
Yes. Yeah. It was, now it was put on by, it was put on by the legislature. I couldn't remember if it was a ballot initiative, but it was actually one of the 3 suggestions of the legislature is to take a look at this. And then when we said we put it on there, we didn't say, hey, give us a raise. We said, let's put in place a commission so that we're not voting ourselves raises.
Yeah.
And so we don't actually have a vote now on how much money we make.
Well, let me ask you this. And I always get myself in trouble on this, but here's what I don't understand. You were in session this year.
Yes, sir.
And I think, would you go in February 1?
We went in, I believe, January 15th.
January 15th. Mm-hmm. Came out middle of April, early April?
We were in session 89 days. We came out very early April. We almost got out in March.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the shortest session in, oh my gosh, forever.
Now, you won't have another regular session until 2017.
That's right.
You have fiscal session next year. What's wrong with having a spring and fall session each year? And everybody said, well, that's growing government. Well, you're already getting paid to do this job, so why would we pay you to be in session once every 2 years and once, so basically, I'm not trying to say you're not doing your job.
Sure.
I'm just saying, if you're in session January through late March of 15, you're in fiscal session for about 3 or 4 weeks in 16, and then go back into regular session in 17. What about May, June, July, August, September, blah, blah, blah,
My opinion, Dale, we do too much as it is.
Really?
Yeah. I don't mean we do too much work. That probably came across. We write too many laws. You get 135 of us together. We're all opinionated people. And
I can just imagine.
We all, and of course our constituents are all urging us, hey, I got a tick bite this summer and it caused me to get an infection. I think we should legalize this incredibly poisonous material in order to put in my yard to do away ticks. Not a bad idea, maybe. But we really need to look at that and say, how poisonous is it? How does the runoff affect the creeks?
Yeah.
I know this may sound like a crazy idea, but
I bet you hear it all.
Yes. This is how crazy things end up being voted on. So I'm afraid if we're in session that frequently, we're going to do even more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Silly things. So I'd almost rather see us only go in session about every 10 years.
We'd be safer, right?
We would be.
Okay, so now the way it's set up, though, let's say that there was a law, that there was an oversight in this past session. In order to get that changed, will you have to go back into a special session or wait until 17?
We probably will have a special session to do with the private option or what we're going to do with Medicaid expansion, or if we're going to do anything with Medicaid expansion. We've got to have we've got to have a special session before the fiscal session comes up because we said by the end of December of 2015 this year, the task force will report to the legislature a recommendation. In order for us to take that recommendation to the United States, to federal people, and say, here's what we want to do with Medicaid expansion, and them have time to give us whatever permission and move forward, we will have to have a special session. So special sessions, people talk about the cost of them. They're not that expensive.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because when you have, let's see, you and Nelda and then the folks over at Sharp County, that's a heck of a drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
To get from here to anywhere in Arkansas, a heck of a drive.
But a special session is 3 days. It should only be 3 days.
Really?
We're gonna study this before we get there. We're not gonna go down there and be handed pieces of paper and saying, okay, here's what you need to study. No, that'll all be emailed to us. We'll know that for weeks before we go down there. We'll be able to study it in our homes and our offices and have an idea what we're looking at. And we all communicate. We've got great communication compared to especially 100 years ago. So we'll be talking to legislators. We'll be talking to our constituents. And by the time we go down there for a special session, we're going to have a very good idea of how we want to vote. And it only takes 3 days to have a special session.
Can you imagine being a legislator without your smartphone or emails?
I'm not sure I could be a person anymore with that. Sometimes I'd like to be. We talk about we don't work as hard as the people before us, the generations before us, and I don't work physically hard as my dad did by any means. That man was in great shape when he died at 86. I mean, he's strong because he always worked, but I work a lot more hours than he ever worked, and not that he wouldn't have, but he just didn't have the technology. And most of us don't set these things down. We don't get away from our computers. And so, we work more hours. We're always thinking, but we need to do more physically. But, so there's times, we'd like to do away with them, but we're so much more productive as legislators and just as people. And most of us are doing more work than we've ever done before.
Yeah, it's almost around the clock.
Yeah, we call it, basically in the tourism industry, we call it time poverty. People don't take the time to go on vacation anymore.
They don't.
When I started in the tourism industry back in the early 90s, a typical vacation was 5 days. The average length of travel was 4.7. 911 changed that in particular. Our average length of stay now is 2.1 days. So we've cut our vacation time in half after 911. And so we call it time poverty. We don't get away. We're not able to connect with ourselves and with our families any longer.
I agree. I remember as a kid when I lived just outside of St. Louis, Dad would pack the trunk and we'd go camping down southeast Missouri. We'd normally leave like on a Monday.
Right.
And leave like on a Friday morning.
Right.
So we'd camp Monday night through Thursday night. So that'd give you basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 full days. But great memories.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think I'll take off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, run here and there, and come back.
You probably never even picked up a payphone during that time to call and see if the house was still standing or if the dog was still alive.
Yeah.
Most people can't go on vacation now without calling home to make sure their dog's okay.
I do it.
Yeah. I say that because I've been guilty as well.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we got about 2 minutes before we go to break. My pet peeves.
Sure. Let's hear them.
Okay. When we voted in that 1-something cent sales tax to help highways.
Okay.
I don't remember what year that was. How on earth did I-40 get all that work done there? Everybody says that anytime we get highway improvement, it seems like it's always Conway to Little Rock or Little Rock to Memphis. And now they're wanting to close the I-55. Of course, that's Tennessee's Department of Transportation. What can we do to help up here? I mean, we're stuck at 55 miles an hour. If the governor has to go somewhere, he gets in his Dodge truck and he can run 70 miles an hour wherever he wants to.
Oh, Dale, I didn't vote to put that on the ballot because I saw that it was going to affect only main corridors and it was not going to help in much at all as far as our smaller areas being our district, District 99. and that tax was set up only to help really the main corridors.
Yeah.
And I agree they're important, but I also didn't think it would help the constituents where I reside, where we live, so I didn't vote for it. So
I actually had a truck dispatcher in Rogers, Arkansas, said if I'm going from Rogers to Jonesboro, they have 2 choices. They can either go in Missouri and run across 60 and down, or they can go from Rogers to Fort Smith across 40 and then back up to Jonesboro because they won't route 62-412 because it's too slow.
Right. Yeah.
Cost them more money.
And higher probability of accident. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and like I said, that's why I didn't vote for it. We the voters passed it. I get that. I know we need highway funding, and we could talk about that for
what
hours.
What percent is federal? Well, what do you know the breakdown?
Oh boy,
is it 80-20?
The reason it is because it was population based.
Yeah.
Where the population is where the money's going to go.
And they look at permanent population.
Right.
But yet our tourism population from, say, May, June, July, and early August will bring our population from Marion County, Baxter County, Sharp, Fulton, Izzard probably as much as Pulaski if we combine all of these counties with the tourists.
Right. But not how it works, Dale.
Darn.
Yeah.
We're visiting with Representative Kelley Linck. It's good to see you today. You're going to stick around for the rest of the program. And you got something you got 10 seconds to fill with?
What do I can't talk about anything in 10 seconds. That's why they don't let me go down the well in the house.
It's time for the news. We'll continue our discussion with Representative Kelley Linck right after this. 7:35. We're continuing our discussion with Representative Kelley Linck, District 99.
Hey, good morning, Dale.
Here comes the sun. Look at that.
It's a blessed thing. Only we don't need it 100 degrees anymore. Had enough of that. Ready to move on.
Been a muggy summer, hasn't it?
Yes, sir, it has. But we in the South, we frequently and quickly forget that the reason that the South has become a tourism destination is air conditioning. It has changed our lifestyle down here. It's grown our economy, and we're proud of whoever that was that invented it.
Anyway, let's talk a few subjects that let's dispel some rumors. I want to know some facts here. Common Core.
Yes, sir.
The lieutenant governor and the commission went around the state, and I'm hearing rumors that they want to change the title. Blah blah blah. What's going on with Common Core?
Well, I don't know enough. I know a little more than to be dangerous, Dale. But education is not really what I study so much in the legislature. I hate to say that, but we do study every subject and enough to vote on it. But that's I've spent so much time on the health committee that I'm not as attuned to this Common Core as I should be. It won't just be a change of name. It's not just that we're going to say, oh, okay, this is no longer Common Core. It's now called Arkansas Revolution or whatever. There will be some systemic changes as well in order to rename it and call it something else. I'm not sure how much of the base of Common Core would be kept and how much would be changed because I'm not in on the details. But I know that enough people in Arkansas have said Common Core is not going to work for the state. We need changes to it. And since since the words Common Core sends shivers up some people's spines, then we also want to change the name of it so that it doesn't bring back those horrible memories to people, I guess.
Tennessee voted it out. I was reading in the paper. In fact, if I remember the vote correctly, there was only one vote to keep it. And that meant that both Republicans and Democrats agreed, all but one out of state of Tennessee on the Common Core.
During this last session, we changed the park testing in Arkansas and did away with that, which seems to be one of the most ill parts of the Common Core to most of the educators, at least, is the park testing and how it's done and the timing of it. So we in Arkansas in the legislature did away with park testing. I think we did away with what the main problem with Common Core was with that. Mm-hmm. So if the governor and the executive branch has some more suggestions to make those changes, and then we can change the name of it and make it work for Arkansas, then I'm all for it.
Back when I was helping Curtis Coleman before the primary of the governor's race years ago, we traveled around this part of the state, visited with some teachers, came to the conclusion after listening to how much time they spend. And I use this example. Let's say you've got a classroom teacher in the elementary grades and they've got a student that's having trouble with phonics. Take the letter C and the letter K. K-A-T, C-A-T. Both will sound like cat, but then let's say that you take the C with an H, church, chapel, something like that, and the child is having trouble. Well, that's a C and that's a K, and that's, so you have to work on the phonics. The paperwork involved to keeping the ACLU out of it, and to make sure the parents understand, well, Mrs. So-and-so is picking on little Timmy or whatever. All they're trying to do is teach. And we figured that 42% of the teacher's day in the classroom is spent with frivolous paperwork to protect themselves from trying to teach a kid.
Right. We talk a lot about accountability, whether it's accountability in education or accountability in healthcare or whatever. And with accountability comes all this paperwork.
Yeah.
And so that's frustrating. We don't trust government, which we shouldn't trust government. And of course, since education is part of government and a lot of healthcare is part of government, so all these things we don't trust, we make government be accountable for. And so myself as a legislator, maybe I come in here and I brag to you, Dale, I've added accountability to the Department of Education. I put in place that we must report how this test works or whatever. Well, what that means is I've just grown government. I've just caused every classroom teacher in Arkansas to have to fill out one more report. And so if every legislator gets to do one of those things, we now have 135 new reports to file. And that's how we grow government, by saying we're increasing accountability.
Yep.
So we want both. We want accountability as conservatives. We want accountability. We want to make sure that our government's doing the right work for us and doing a good job, but we want less government. And quite honestly, you can't have both.
That's true.
So, I I want to make sure that when we're spending the gazillions of dollars in Arkansas we spend on K through 12 education, that we're getting our money's worth. You can't do that without this reporting. And the teachers can't do reporting all day and do a good job. So at some point in time, we simply have to trust. Now, of course, Reagan would say trust but verify. Well, with verification comes reporting.
There you go.
So it's hard to find that mix of what we expect the teachers to do. We want them to teach. I want to stay. When I campaigned, when I went to schools, I went to teachers, I said, I'm going to stay out of your classroom. And I've done that so far. I've made some votes that I think some people maybe didn't like, but I've voted. Where I've voted, I've stayed out of teachers' classrooms.
Well, when we look at the standards for a teacher in Arkansas and the education that's required, shouldn't we put more trust in that teacher? In other words, if that superintendent goes to his school board and says, okay, I want to recommend this teacher because they have this quality here, and I know we've got some teachers that may slack off, but all in all, I don't know. You look at Norfolk and Mountain Home and Gassville Cotter and Yellville Summit. I think there's some outstanding schools. Salem Greyhounds over here, Viola. We've got some outstanding schools.
Ultimately, the school can only be as good as shouldn't
but
say
the problem
this,
is, if you've got something going on in southeast Arkansas or Little Rock, that's a reflection of the whole state.
Well,
correct or incorrect?
Correct. It is a reflection on the whole state, although we have regionalized it to some degree, and we do pick out areas and schools. The biggest problem we have, Dale, whether it's teachers or whatever they're trying to do, you cannot teach a kid math when he has left a home that his parents were high on methamphetamine or whatever the night before or the day before.
Yeah.
I promise you that child got himself ready for school and walked out to the bus hungry, because there's no breakfast. If you're doing meth at night, you're not cooking breakfast for your child in the morning. And that kid is not really sitting down in that classroom ready to learn math. So when we look at making our schools accountable, we also have to make our parents and our society accountable. Very difficult to do.
That's a horrible thought.
There you go.
But it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in the computer programming world, and of course, thanks to Governor Hutchinson, we're going to have more computer programming in more schools, and that's going to happen. I mean, that's part of his campaign promise. And if you look and see what he's done so far, or what we've done, what government's done, it's happening. We're going to have more computer programming in more schools, and the kids going to walk out knowing how at least if they don't know how to do it, how it works. But we've got to get the drugs out of the homes to make the kids better students. And so, in the computer programming world, you have garbage in, garbage out.
Sure.
That's what that's called. I certainly don't want to call anyone garbage, but if you're not bringing a prepared student to school, it's hard to make an educated, prepared student leave that school. So we've got to put accountability back into the parents as well.
In fact, when you were here, when the governor was here at one point, and I asked the question, why has anybody looked at the psychological realm of why people want that stuff in their body? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
I'll never forget one time I've had lacquer thinner in my eye and I've had carburetor cleaner in my eye. And I don't know if I've had anything hurt and burned so bad as when I got carburetor cleaner in my eye. But they will take battery acid, carburetor cleaner, and they'll break open these little capsules of Sudafeds and stuff. Why do you want that in your body?
Dale, I'm easily addicted to things, whether it's playing sports or even being in government. So I have left drugs alone because I've heard how addictive they are. I'm quite confident that if I ever did methamphetamine, I would do it again, because everyone tells me, everyone that's ever been on it says, look, once you do it, it's great. You got to crave it. You're going to want it again. I will never do it because I'm afraid, oh my gosh, the way
I
I
don't
am,
want it.
I would want it again. I know. So I don't know. I can't tell you because I've never experienced it, and I will never experience it.
I'm with you there. Visiting with Representative Kelley Linck. Time for a quick break. Be right back. 7:48. We're continuing our discussion with Representative Kelley Linck, District 99. What's going on in Marion County that we need to know about?
Well, you know, we got an interesting thing coming up with the jail, and there's going to have to be a vote on that tax, and I'm sure that we've had probably had numerous people from the county. If not, they'll be in here talking about it. You might bring in Judge Ott sometime soon and discuss that. But it's not that, hey, we want a new jail. It's again one of those things where we, the government, have said jails have to meet these criteria. And the Marion County Jail has not met that criteria in a long time. We've got waiver after waiver and kept it open for time after time. And finally, the buck stops here. It's going to be closed. It cannot remain open. There's no longer any more waivers, any more, well, we'll get it done sometime. It's going to be closed. And so we either, A, can start exporting prisoners and paying the cost for transportation and what it costs a jail hold elsewhere, or B, build a jail. Now, I'm not as in tune to this as the Marion County people would be able to talk about it, but that's the option they're up to. And it's kind of like if you want to build a house, buy a house, or rent a house. Sometimes it may be cheaper to rent, and that's what the voters.
Your options.
That's what the voters are going to have to decide.
The problem with prison overcrowding, where would they put them?
There you go. Now, Boone County's got a pretty good sized prison, but Marion County starts using it and everyone else, and it's going to be.
Now, didn't the governor ask for $7.2 or $7.4 million to increase the bed size at Pine Bluff facility?
Right, and that's what we've done is statewide we're not building any more prisons. That was discussed at one point in time, but instead we're going to better utilize the beds we have, the space we have, add beds to prisons, and use the existing facilities and the existing personnel to manage those facilities. But yes, we definitely had to increase them, and as I'm sure Sheriff Montgomery has been on here numerous times, he's probably talked about it.
In fact, he was on with the governor. I made the arrangements for him because he knows more about it than I do.
Right. So you can't put them anymore in county jails. The counties lose money with them in jail. So of course now sometimes the counties kind of use that system as well. They call them a state prisoner so that the state will pay the medical costs. The medical cost for a prisoner is very high. Yeah. So sometimes
it's like Sheriff Montgomery's been in here numerous times, at least once a month. And the ludicrous thing, I think, if I got arrested this afternoon, I'm in the lockup. Oh, by the way, I've got pneumonia. I need to go to the hospital. He has to pay for it.
That's right.
It's a pre-existing condition.
Yeah. So
if you need medical care, build a whiskey still. Get arrested. Not.
Yeah, let's not do that. So anyway, that's what's going on. Probably the biggest issue going on in Marion County right now. Of course, Yellville school system. I think you had the new superintendent on here.
Wes Henderson was here.
Mm-hmm. And they've got some difficulties to overcome, but I think they will. I think we got the right people in place, and we got a great spirit in Yellville, and I know many of the school board members.
Mr. Henderson was really excited.
Yeah. And good school board members, everyone there is well intended, and it's been a good school in the past. I think it's still a good school.
Sure.
Just the financial problems. So I'm sure that'll all be overcome within soon, a year or two, and I believe that'll be back on track financially, and I know the kids there are getting a good education, so that'll continue.
We've done, when I help XL7 TV, I do, once in a while we'll travel to a football game. I think in the last couple of years, we've been out there 2 or 3 times at Yellville and for football. I had a good time. I do stats for them occasionally. A lot of fun. Good facility.
Yeah, they had their fundraising pie auction last Thursday night, as a matter of fact. Yeah. I've got some pies I need to swing by and pick up, I believe. So
apple or cherry?
Yes.
Tourism in this part of the state, how are we doing? The gasoline prices have dropped, and I know Marion County, with Crooked Creek and Buffalo River and everything else. Is
one of the biggest parts
that
controls tourism. Of course, we're a water sports based community, and how our water is controls a lot of how many dollars we make in visitation is. And so Buffalo River, good year this year, except that it rained on weekends. It rained out.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah. If it would rain on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, that'd be better. But it rained out a few weekends there, so the canoe operators themselves were down, but their lodging was still very good. Of course, our lakes right now, we still got parking lots underwater. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen parking lots underwater in late August. And so our lakes are still high. We've still got parking lots underwater, but the visitation to them has been pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to break down just when you see the basic numbers, the first numbers that come in with tourism. All you see is that 2% tourism tax. And so it's difficult to break out whether it's business travel or whether it's leisure travel. And our business travel, we got some good business things going on. So
Good.
our business travel's up in the area, which helps make up for sometimes when that lake may be flooded. So, yeah, everything. I mean, things are going well for us here. With our number one industry of tourism, and of course agriculture seems to be going well. The cattlemen are not having to buy hay.
That's good.
Matter of fact, hay is so cheap. I know some that are buying it so they don't have to bale their own because it's so cheap. It's cheaper than baling it.
Really?
Yes, you can get.
Boy,
hay.
that's a switch from 2 years ago.
It is. You can get hay anywhere you
Oh
want
my
to.
goodness! I think some were paying nearly $100 per round bale 2 years ago.
I'm hearing $14 to $16 a bale right now.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. So that's good for them, and I'm not in that industry, but that's what I'm hearing.
My goodness.
So good stuff. I don't know how much time we
Minute
have.
and a half.
Minute and a half. Well, the task force on healthcare in Arkansas will be making a report soon. You probably read that right now they're looking at saying, the basics of this private option is good. We may want to stay with the basics and tweak it or tune it up a little bit. They're not coming up with a better option than what we did several years ago. When we put it in several years ago, a private option, we never thought it was the end-all, fix-all, and by any means, we always said it would have to be improved upon. It looks like from what I'm reading now from the task force, that may be one of the things they're looking at is simply improving the basics of what we have, a private option. We'll see. I'm looking forward to that report coming out.
No, wasn't there something where something ends on December?
Private option ends December of 16.
Of 16, yeah.
Right. So since it is guaranteed to end, but we may have to keep the basics of it. We may continue using expanded Medicaid funding to buy private insurance, that's the basics of the private option. Because we did vote to end it, then it will end, but some replacements going to have to come along that may be similar to it. So we've not found a better option out there, including.
So this is a wait and see.
It
Special
is.
session sometime next year?
Early, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Before or after fiscal?
Before fiscal.
Ooh, you guys are going to be down there all winter, aren't you?
Yeah. We will. Well, it'll be a 5-day session.
Really?
Yeah. By that time, the task force will have spoken, so will the executive branch, and we'll have to approve something.
Well, thank Representative Kelley Linck for being here. You got to keep us posted on what's going on with that now.
Glad to.
It's always good to have Kelley Linck here. Always good to see you, Cal. That wraps it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Hope you have a wonderful day, everybody. See you tomorrow.